Let's talk about a few tips that might help you speed up your drawing process and make your drawings look that much better. We talked a little bit about the brick borders around my patios that I'd shown and how they all got colored at the same time, and the fact that I had grouped them together using the cluster tool that we use for shrubs and trees so that Dynascape Color recognized them as belonging together and colored them all at one time. You can do the same thing for things like stepping stones. Say, for example, these stepping stones here, if I wish to apply color to all of them at one time, I can do so. That's because I've grouped them together in Dynascape Design using the clustering tool so that it colored them all at the same time, as opposed to me having to individually go and color them one at a time. That's a time saver. You can also make your drawings look better by learning how to use shadows to help you show grade changes. For example, here I've got a landing with a couple of steps on it. I can apply shadows to that landing, and I can change the direction whichever way I like. Even if it goes against the light source, I can still use a shadow to help my clients visualize a grade change. So I'm going to show a grade change here by adding a shadow there and there. Suddenly you can tell there's a grade change there. Same with this pond. I've added a fair bit of detail to this pond in order for this pond to look a little bit more three-dimensional. If I were to add a shadow to it, you'll see that it adds a bit of depth to the pond. I can even add shadows to things like fish and water plants, and that'll also improve the appearance of the pond and the things that are in it to give it more of a three-dimensional look and feel. One thing that you also should remember is that Dynascape Color will only bring in whatever part of the drawing sheet is inside Dynascape Design's drawing limits. So these drawing limits here, this drawing limit here, is basically what will become your sheet in Dynascape Color. So if you color outside this drawing, or you color really close to the edge, you'll not have much of a margin. Anything you've drawn outside the drawing will not show up in Dynascape Color, will not also be colorable. I also want to talk a little bit about putting borders on your drawing, and this can easily happen if you were to draw a rectangular border around this drawing here. That would become a colorable space. So say, for example, if I erase this and if I drew a rectangle around this drawing and like this, saved it, and then open it up into Dynascape Color, open it up here. There's my drawing. It's got a border around it. If that was the last thing that I drew and I zoomed in and tried to color something, say for example I wanted to color my lawn area, grab a lawn swatch, go to color it, nothing lights up. If I were to left click, it'll cover the whole screen. If I were to zoom all the way out, you'll see that it's colored all the way to the edge of that square. That square is a closed polygon, therefore it's colorable. So the best thing to do is go back into Design, explode that square, save it, and then bring it back and open it back up in color. That way that area is no longer colorable, so when I go to color my lawn area, it selects my lawn area, not the title block around my drawing. Another trick to remember is that when you are setting your drawing up for color, if you've created an area, for example you've got a shape, whether it's a rectangle, grab the rectangle tool, whether it's a rectangle or a closed polygon like this that you've created in any other layer than the color setup layer, that area is colorable. I do not need to draw it again as a closed area on the color setup layer. I can leave it on whatever layer I wish. So I do not have to have it on the color setup layer. If it's already a closed area, it will color as long as that layer is turned on when Dynascape Color opens the drawing that you've saved. Anything that's not on will not appear in Dynascape Color, nor will it be colorable unless it's on the color setup layer. The only exception is the color setup layer will always be found by Dynascape Color regardless of whether it's turned on or off. We talked about grouping objects together to make them colorable. For example, around my walkway here, I've created a border out of pavers, so I went to the pavers library, I used the top one here, and I grabbed them and I put them around my driveway and my walkway. I used this tool here called Offset Figures Along a Line at a distance. I used that tool and I created that shape of bricks all the way around my walkway and driveway. Then I grouped them using the cluster tool. group them all together so that now they are a grouping. They would all color individually all at one time when I brought it into color. The same thing can be said for things like rocks. So you go to your rocks library, grab a bunch of different rocks, place them on your design as you wish, and then before you bring it into color, you cluster them. Use the cluster tool, color them, cluster them. They become one grouping. Now when I save this drawing and open it up in color, those rocks will all color at the same time. So all three will color, all my bricks will color, because I've used the cluster tool to group them together. So group your trees that are the same together, group all your stepping stones and rocks, brick borders, pieces of flagstone, whatever they are, group them together to improve the speed of coloring your color drawing.